Hello everybody. Today we have Mr. Nawneet Vaibhaw with us. He is partner in the environmental law practice at Shardul Amarchand Mangaldas and Company. Hello sir and welcome to BW Businessworld.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity.
Right, so our discussion today is centered around CSR and ESG, which are both extremely relevant topics, not just for companies, but for individuals as well, for the environmentally conscious people who want to make a difference at their own individual level and not just for the organization they are associated with. So let's just start off with the discussion by describing what ESG and CSR, and more so ESG only, what does that mean to you?
So ESG, as the name suggests, and I think by now with all the webinars and all the publications and stuff on ESG, everyone knows that ESG stands for environment, social and governance issues. If you ask me as to what ESG means for me, I think it's just a state of mind. It's a more responsible way of doing your business, because when we are saying ESG, this is not something which is clearly new to any jurisdiction, including India. And the environmental issues, the social responsibility towards the community and all of that, and of course, issues with respect to governance have always been there. So it's not something which is new. The only good part is now there's a lot of conversation around it. A lot of people are talking about it. They've realized the importance of being responsible in how we conduct ourselves. The companies actually carry out their businesses. So like the name suggests, when you're talking about environment, you're clearly talking about ensuring that there is no harmful impact of your activities on the natural environment. If you're talking about social issues, you clearly are talking about, the manner in which you conduct your business so that the community around you is clearly not facing any adverse consequences because of it, And governance, of course, we are talking about ensuring that we carry out in a fair and transparent manner, not carrying out any corrupt practices and stuff like that. So I think this is something which has always been there in our laws. There's always been there. This is just a more ethical way of doing things. And I think because of all the impact on environment, climatic changes, the whole discourse around, white collar crimes and, how we treat our employees, diversity, the impact on communities of businesses and all of that. I think we've just kind of come up with a more, organized approach of looking into these aspects. And why it is also very important is because clearly it kind of works as a guiding tool for the investors, the bankers, and, all these people to actually invest in companies which are more responsible, companies which care for the environment, which care for the communities around them, which ensure that they carry out their business in a more responsible manner. And clearly, there is no reason as to why such companies and businesses should not be supported. So clearly, there is a reason as to why companies are expected to comply and score well on the ESG parameters, because if they want to carry out business and carry it out in a more responsible and a manner which clearly sort of like benefits the communities and the world at large, then this is the way forward. So that's what ESG pretty much means to me.
So ESG is a very broad topic, and given that there are many nuances involved in it, companies will have to drastically alter their business models so that they are ESG compliant. So how do you see your clients and companies catering to this newfound or rather rediscovered concept?
So the way I see it is it would be incorrect to say that, companies really need to drastically change the way in which they were kind of carrying out their businesses earlier. Because the way I see it is we've always had laws, we've had the regulatory framework which deals with issues with respect to, say, environment, issues with respect to labor and employment, issues with respect to governance. It's always been there in our laws. To say that this is something which is new and because of which you have to completely overhaul what you've been doing or, drastically change what you've been doing, that's not correct. And the way I see it is, all compliant companies, all responsible companies have always been doing these things. It's just that now there is an increased focus on these aspects. So clearly, now companies are clearly expected that, you kind of perform well, you score well on these parameters. And any compliant company is anyway doing these things. So I think it's a little, I would say, it's over and above what you've always been doing. It's a way of kind of documenting everything you've been doing so far and kind of presenting it to the regulator and of course, any investor or whatever in a more organized form. And so I think this is no reason. There is no reason as to why anyone should feel that you need to change the manner in which you were conducting business earlier. It's just a more responsible way, and I think you just need to be more responsible, more conscious, more aware of everything that you're doing, more aware of your activities and the impact of your activities on the environment, on the communities. So I think this is not something which anyone should really get intimidated by. This is something which people should kind of see as a blessing in disguise, and this is something which clearly people need to kind of imbibe and kind of appreciate, and because this is only going to do a world of good to all the companies. So I feel this is something which has always been there, just that we have a nomenclature now, and especially in India, because outside India, be it US, Europe, it's always been there. So I think we have a nomenclature, and clearly in the last 1.5 years, there's been a lot of discussion around it. So now everyone knows as to why they should be focusing on the ESG parameters, and why it's something which is clearly going to be a blessing for them, and they should kind of take it much more seriously than earlier if they were not doing it already. So yes, this is something which has always existed. This is something which has always been there, just that now the focus is more on this. So companies need to just pull up their socks and ensure that they're absolutely up to speed on this.
So given that ESG has always existed, and companies are more or less becoming more conscious in terms of reporting and being more mindful in their actions in terms of being compliant to the parameters. So given these facts, does ESG and CSR, when taken together, have any impact on company profits as a whole?
Absolutely. So I think the way I see it is, when we say that companies need to perform well on the ESG parameters, or they need to clearly sort of like through corporate social responsibility, they need to contribute towards the well-being of the community at large and the environment, and education, health, and all of these things. Clearly, the idea is not only in terms of charity, because the way I want you to see it is, clearly when you're doing these things, you're also kind of improving the efficiency of the people who are the beneficiaries of this. So, for example, now if you're actually kind of focusing on environment, you're focusing on the kind of products that you use, you're focusing on the communities, you're focusing on ensuring that all your systems are very kind of transparent, your activities are transparent, you are absolutely in compliance with all the laws. It also improves the efficiency of the business, the company as such. So there is no reason as to why you will not end up performing better than what you were doing earlier. And I think when you're more responsible in everything that you do, when you're more conscious of everything that you do, be it towards environment, communities, your own day-to-day activities, you're clearly kind of, like I said, pulling up your socks and ensuring that you're putting your best foot forward. So when you do that, clearly your profits will improve. You will clearly kind of your public perception will improve. You'll clearly be seen as more responsible. You'll be clearly performing in a more efficient manner. So clearly there is no reason as to why your profits will not increase. So I think it's a wrong way to look at it, as that, because at times people do say that this is more like a additional compliance burden. I don't think it's that it's such a case at all, because I think this is something which is just meant to ensure that your systems, your activities, the manner in which you operate improves. It becomes more efficient, it becomes more responsible, and you are actually contributing to the society, the people around you, the environment in a much better manner. And when you do that, there is the only way forward is upwards, because you'll only improve your market perception, you'll improve the perception of your brand, you'll improve your profits, people will see you as a responsible company, people will buy your products, and clearly that benefits you on every count. So I think even if you see from a pure profit motive, it makes a lot of sense. So companies need to ensure that they whatever requirements are in terms of CSR, they contribute towards it. And in terms of ESG, they clearly comply with all the parameters and ensure that they are seen as a very, very responsible company. Yeah.
It is interesting that you mentioned that, because I was having a conversation with the startup founder recently, and that's what they said, that the more ESG compliant they are, the more investors are there nationally as well as internationally who are willing to invest in their brand. So it's not just companies; it is for anybody and everybody out there who's
absolutely. And I think the sooner people realize this, and I'm glad that startups like the one you mentioned are actually talking about it, because I think that's the way forward. And I think people need to have the kind of maturity to appreciate as to, maturity and sophistication to appreciate as to why the regulator actually wants you to kind of report on these parameters, because this is something which will clearly benefit you and it's for your well-being as a business. So yeah, the sooner companies realize it, the better it is for them.
Yes, so when we're talking about ESG, I have noticed that there's always a focus towards things like environment and sustainability, and the G part, which is the governance part, is often ignored. So in addition to that, what do you think companies are lacking today when it comes to ESG compliance? Are they 100% hitting the nail on the head, or is there something lacking today?
So clearly, I think, what you need to appreciate is when we had this whole conversation around ESG in India, we had a whole lot of guidelines. We of course had something like the BRR format, and then of course the BRSR format, and then of course we have also had something called BRSR Light and all of that earlier. The idea simply was to create a whole lot of awareness around these issues. And the idea simply is that I'm sorry, can you repeat your question again, please?
So I said that when we talk about ESG, the focus is usually biased towards environment and sustainability. What we often ignore is the governance part, which is the G1, 1/3 of the ESG part. So in addition to that, what do you think companies are getting wrong when it comes to ESG compliance, or are they completely hitting the nail on the head and getting everything right?
Right. So the way I see it is clearly, because of, like I said, that, we've had a whole lot of guidelines earlier. We've had the BRR format, we've had the BRSR format, of course, the light format, which is there for the companies which want to report voluntarily and all of that. So clearly, you created a whole lot of awareness with respect to the ESG parameters. Now, so if you're talking about governance as such, the responsible companies have always been doing it, because we've had laws, we've had the regulatory framework which clearly expect you to ensure that, there are no illegal kind of activities. You're absolutely transparent in your dealings. There's no malpractices. Your interaction with the so-called regulators and all stakeholders is done in a very, very transparent and responsible manner, and all of that. And also within the organization, how you kind of carry out your business and everything. So I think, so it's not that, companies have not been focusing on governance, and we've also had laws in this regard. We've had judgments from, the courts and the tribunals and all of that. So it's always been there. The only thing I'm saying is that now, because you're talking about ESG, it's possible that there's a little more focus, say, on the environment parameters, because like you just mentioned that a lot of focus on environment and not as much on governance or whatever. So I don't think that is correct, because clearly environment is something which is very critical, and now that we are talking on the earth today, we know it that if there's one thing which is definitely critical for our survival, it's environment. So clearly maybe environment takes a little more importance than a few other parameters, because there is a lot that is required to be done. But to say that, maybe the S or the G of it is getting ignored, I don't think it's correct, because companies are clearly, a lot of companies, and I'm sure you know that very well, are focusing on their impact, when it comes to the communities around them, where their plants are located and stuff. And, they build these hospitals and, schools and, do all kinds of welfare activities for the communities and all of that. Again, as a part of, like you said, CSR and those obligations. On the governance parameters, we've always had companies kind of, ensuring that they're absolutely clean and clear in terms of how they carry out the business. So to say that one gets more importance over the other is not correct, or one gets, and again, you need to appreciate that it all depends on the nature of the company, the sector in which you operate, the kind of activities that you are indulging in. All right. So those things of course matter. But I think irrespective of what sector you operate in, your impact on the environment, your impact on the communities, and governance most importantly, because you may not have as much exposure to environment or the communities and stuff like that, but governance of course is equally important for all the companies. So to say that it's getting ignored is not correct. But even if that was the case, I think that there is a lot of awareness that has been created because of the whole discussion and the whole lot of webinars on ESG, and everyone kind of warming up to the idea that they need to comply and they need to do a whole lot of things. So I think at least now that is no longer the case. People realize the importance of good governance, And then I think, so the E, S and G are equally important, and the companies realize that very much.
Yes, given that, as you mentioned, that a lot of webinars and awareness programs around ESG are being conducted, and we are taking it a lot more seriously now than we ever did before. So, given this fact, what do you think are going to be the trends in this domain in 2022 and 23?
So the trend, of course, the webinars and stuff were like the precursor. They were more like the trailer to what is going to happen now. Because now, at least from this financial year, you have to compulsorily report if you're falling in the category of the top 1,000 companies by way of market capital. So the idea clearly is that now it's time for action. So the era of awareness and webinars and all of that is over. Now, if you are one of those companies in the top 1,000, you have to ensure that you clearly set your house in order. You do everything that is required of you, and you report it in the appropriate format to the concerned regulatory authorities. So the idea simply is that now it's time to actually set your house in order, like I said, and time for real action, time to show that where you stand in terms of these parameters, and what is it that you've done so far, what is it that you're going to do, and how is it that you're going to ensure that you create a positive difference. Yeah.
Okay, so given that we have these 1,000 companies that have to report given their financials, so what can the leadership in these companies, or even other companies who don't fall in this bracket, what can the top-down approach towards promoting a healthy outlook towards CSR and ESG, what can that look like for company leaders across the board?
So I think, like I said earlier also, that the idea of these so-called webinars or whatever was just to kind of create awareness. And I think as leaders, it's extremely important that, you tell your people, that why this is important and why for a company this is important from your perspective, from the perspective of your particular company, irrespective of which sector you operate in, what is the nature of your business activity and stuff. You need to tell people as to why this is important. So I think within the organization, this sensitivity is extremely important. And I think a lot of companies now have these, chief environment officers and sustainability officers and stuff like that. And clearly the idea is that, you have someone who you could call the conscience keeper of the enterprise, and who kind of tells as to where you're actually going wrong and what is it that you need to do better, where is it that you can improve your activities, where is it that you can actually kind of ask the people who work with you involved in the supply chain and stuff to actually improve their activities, ensure that their activities have the minimal impact on environment, and they're socially responsible, they have good governance practices and all of that. So I think as a leader, if you're in the management of the company, if you're on the board of the company and all of that, you have to kind of reiterate the importance of ESG compliance. You have to tell the people that, this is not some one of the to-do things kind of a thing. And you're not doing any charity or not doing any kind of, favor to someone by kind of complying with it. You're only doing a favor to yourself by ensuring that you comply with this. And more than anything else, it's important for your well-being, because going forward, every investor is kind of going to look into it, and not just investors, all stakeholders. If I'm a consumer and I have to buy the product of a company, I'll clearly look at, and then we live in an era where everything is known to everyone. So I think, we would actually want to buy it from a company which is seen as responsible, which is a company which actually conducts its business properly, which is responsible and sensitive towards the environment, which is kind of, which treats the communities well, which is kind of carrying out the good governance practices. So I think it's only good for you, and the sooner people realize, the better it is for them. So I think to answer your question, the senior management needs to ensure that there is sufficient level of education. There are these courses, maybe the training programs within the organizations. They can have external speakers come and tell their people as to why you need to do what you are expected to do, and why this makes a lot of sense for your enterprise. So I think that discourse has to happen.
Yes, as they say that leadership makes a lot of difference. It has been proven even historically, leave alone now. So
Absolutely.
yes,
Absolutely.
What senior personnel in any organization are doing is extremely important. We have to lead by example, as they say. So having established what is already being done in this space, and how the personnel in companies can contribute. So what would your advice be? Now, henceforth, we have already seen that ESG has gained importance. It has already been there whether we realize it or not. So what now? What would your advice be to companies as to becoming more ESG compliant and environmentally conscious?
So my advice is pretty simple. So please do not see ESG as a compliance burden and or CSR like you mentioned clearly, because these are all kind of requirements which will only make you appear good. And I think the idea simply is that this is a great opportunity for you to kind of plug the loopholes and look within and find out as to what is it that you are not doing as good as you should have been doing. Where is it that you have gone wrong or you could possibly go wrong, and kind of fix those shortcomings. And the way I see it is, I think it's a great opportunity. Please use this to ensure that all your systems are in place, your practices are absolutely in order. You are responsible towards the environment because that's a question of our survival. You're responsible to the communities around you. All your governance practices are absolutely transparent, and you are absolutely seen as a responsible and transparent company. And I think this will only augur well for you in the long term. So the only advice I have is, do not see it as a compliance burden. It's always been there in the laws. You've always been complying with it. Just that now you have to kind of ensure that all the information is kind of collated and presented to the so-called regulatory authority in a comprehensive manner, and try and go over and above that, because I think there are these international practices. There are all kinds of reporting formats, and so if you and we live in a globalized world, as they call it. So the idea is your business is not just kind of something that will impact people in this country, but everyone is ambitious these days, and people want to expand. And if you want to take your business to another jurisdiction in future where the norms are more stringent maybe than what you have here, then you clearly need to do what is required and maybe a little more than that. So I think please use this as a great opportunity and ensure that you make the best of it.
Yes, of course, we have to look at every situation, challenge or not, as an opportunity, be it for companies or otherwise. So that's pretty sound advice for everybody out there, that this can be seen as a very good opportunity to scale up, if for no other incentive than for economic reasons. So with that, I wanted to wind up our discussion and pose a final question towards you. So what are your parting thoughts towards the Earth Day, and what is your message for us?
Okay, so to be honest, I think the reason as to why we should kind of talk about environment and issues of sustainability, ESG, corporate social responsibility, not just on the Earth Day or the World Environment Day, but I think it should become a state of mind. We should always be conscious of what we do and how we do. And I think how we do things makes a lot of difference. So so at the cost of sounding very preachy, all I would say is, we are living in very, very difficult and critical circumstances. And most of us, and if you talk to your elders, and they'll clearly tell you that, the rainfall pattern, the extreme heat in summers, the extreme cold during winters, so all I'm trying to convey is that, the drastic changes in the weather pattern and everything around us is quite visible now. So there is no doubt that things are deteriorating at a very, very fast pace, and all our lives are very much dependent on Earth. So today being Earth Day, on the natural resources, how we treat this Earth. And of course, I don't want to sound very romantic and say Mother Earth and stuff like that. I mean, that's for people to feel, because all of us, we've originated from here, and eventually when we die, we'll all be a part of whatever is left behind. So the idea simply is that be conscious of that, be very responsible about everything that you do in day-to-day life. I mean, you can always blame the government, the regulator, or the companies, or whoever, but I think each of us, you, me, everyone included, everyone maybe who's watching this interview or whatever, is equally responsible for this. So at your individual level, at least do whatever best you can. Be responsible in terms of your water consumption, your waste generation, how you commute, and ensure that even if you are extremely well-to-do or whatever, do not waste resources. I mean, if you can do with a little less, and like Mahatma Gandhi's quote is often kind of cited by people. So, and that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's not like you kind of mention these quotes only during speeches. I mean, that's something that you imbibe in your lives and have a more responsible life, where you only kind of use what is really required and what is really necessary for you. So I think, and I think this needs to become a state of mind. You have to be responsible. You have to be conscious towards the environment. You have to ensure that you stop blaming the regulators, the government, the private parties, or whatever. Do it at your level. Of course, if you see something is not right, please flag it. That's the idea of a responsible citizen. I mean, take it to the government, take it to the courts, or wherever you have to, and say that this needs to be addressed. Because, see, it's everyone's collective responsibility to ensure that you make this earth a better place, to ensure that you protect the environment, to ensure that everything around you is in order, and we're just living in a better world. So I think my short message is that I think please take earth, please take environment, please take the communities around you very, very seriously, and treat them with a lot of respect. Treat them and behave in a very responsible manner towards all this, because more than anyone else, it's important for your survival. And if you want to survive and possibly thrive, then please be careful about everything that you do, because our lives are very fragile. And if you want to live those 70, 80 years on this earth, then you have to do much more than what you're doing right now. So yeah, happy Earth Day to everyone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your closing comments. Of course, we have to all be mindful, and not just today and in our day-to-day life. So with that thought, let's just wind up for today. And thank you so much, Mr. Vaibhaw, for joining us and sharing.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.